Hello hero, it's Lucy Lannon. It's good to see you. You've seen the title, so at this stage you know more about today's reading than I do, since I speak to you from the recent alternate past. This is a general, timeless one, ideally designed for quite a large audience, so we won't get as specific as we would in a private booking, link down below. If most of what I'm saying feels like an answer to a question you've been living, take those tidbits with you and let a fellow traveller excavate the rest. If it's not your reading, there are playlists on my channel hub to randomise finding something else. Whilst it's true that a broken clock is right twice a day, I'm not sure that same clock is right 10 times within the hour. So trust yourself, above all, to know what's useful for you and what makes you feel more empowered for hearing it, no matter what your beliefs. While we're on beliefs, on this channel gendered terms are just a specificity of language to describe energetic tendencies and signatures, solar or lunar inclination in accordance with a hermetic law of polarity, and not any kind of socialisation to buy into wholesale or conflate with the identity or orientation of anyone described. Romantic and spiritual labels used are plucked from lengthy precedent predating any unfortunate trending controversies or engineered cyclical backlash. My dude, around these parts, we don't relinquish the complexity of our full histories. We trust ourselves cognitively to adapt what we consume and see what's healthy and long-term accurate. I'm legally obliged to say this is entertainment in quote marks and that I'm an occultist not qualified in unrelated disciplines to advise on physical and mental health, finances, legalities. You get the picture, you're in charge of you. All my readings are protected and warded by frankly magnificent beneficial forces, though I don't share my custom prep rituals on camera any more than I give out my address. I hope the reasoning behind that is obvious, but you can trust there are zero parasitic or adversarial influences permitted within 100 unseen paces of any signal we patch from the noise here today. So sit back, relax into the shape of your most luminous possible future self, cozy up to imaginal allies, and take in whatever it is you need to hear. If you do like it, this small channel with a big mission very much appreciates subscriptions, thoughtful comments, or donations in order to spread the word and keep the lights on. Now, let's tune that dial. My little petal, you're about to go through a gate and not everything and not everyone can come with you. How do I know this? Firstly, we had obsidian for our crystal of the day, which usually is to do with some form of grounding or protections. Spirit actually asked me to use my huge obsidian, which is maybe this big, in the reading, and I felt that that was a little unwieldy for the table and not entirely appropriate. So we've gone instead with this golden obsidian that I used to use for scrying, which you can kind of see up here. If I turn it around. Hello, my hand is just up here, but hopefully you will have seen it in the intro. So yeah, grounding, protection. This is also a lot to do with shadow work, particularly because I switched it out from my protection stone to my kind of scrying and shadow stone. Gold being a signifier of royalty, right? And then this stuff happening in the kind of underworld to say that you are a divine presence within a divine but nonetheless terrifying space. So it's you kind of going into the depths of yourself to bring out truths which are nuggets of gold, to kind of pan for gold within the psyche, which also fits in very well with your colour of the day. But then I want to kind of draw your attention not just to the fact that the trust stone came out as well kind of after, and to the fact that the song is Convoy, which again, you know, moving through a passageway where not everybody comes through at the same time. Those of you who know. But then these fairy cards. So I'm going to read a little from the book on this, but not the full interpretation because we're short on time. Firstly, we have the Singer of Transfiguration up here. So we've got transformation, transcendence, and metamorphosis. The singer tells us that we've been through the gate, we've passed through the initiation process, we've reached a new way of being, reflecting deep transformation within ourselves. Things will never again be what they once were. Things will never be seen in the same way by us, and this is a good thing. This singer's joyful, passionate, bright blaze of colour heralds a time of fulfilment and accomplishment. Now, you may not feel like this just yet, but bear with, right? Jackpot. This card in a reading signifies the joy of success after a time of struggle. A new way of life has been accepted and is being integrated. Remember, we had the shadow integration stone. A sense of inner peace is growing. The struggle has been all worth it. This is a time of consolidation and joy, and is both a reward for past achievements and a time of preparation for the next climb up the path. Notice that the Convoy song got a bit jubilant when I said joy. How nice is that? It is a very silly song, but I highly recommend. I'll link the playlist down below. Where are we? And then we also got the Guardian at the Gate. I love this one. My nickname, which I think was meant to carry shade by a kind of ex-friend, was the Gatekeeper, in the sense of being a threshold to certain disciplines and thoughts and whatever, but also I think it was meant to be like, oh, you're a gatekeeper of certain arts or whatever. I didn't take it fully that way. I think that being a guardian at the gate is a very privileged position. You might also be a kind of guardian at a gate of some kind, and this is in reference to that. But it also says, passages to a new life, openings, gatekeeping. The principal task of the guardian is to facilitate the passage from one realm to another and to block the passage of that which is not ready to pass. Notice we've gone from Convoy to Biggie. It's a more aggressive energy, right? These realms may be Earth, Fairy, Cosmos of the Singers, or Unity. They can also be considered as levels of reality or states of consciousness. Read higher or lower vibration. In one state of consciousness, we're in the ordinary world. In another, we're in Fairy or in Unity. Our bodies don't move, but our minds do. So this isn't a literal, circumstantial, material movement through a passage. Even if you've had a recent move or transition, this is much more about you crossing a threshold because of circumstances which may not have been ideal for you. Is there anything in the following? Drawing this card indicates passage that's being made to the beginning of something new in our lives. It speaks of new opportunities, new openings. It may lead to a physical journey, but we've kind of said it's probably not that, or a mental and emotional one, a journey of the spirit. It always leads to adventure. This gateway will also lead to significant change in our lives. The passage through such a gate changes us. The gate may not seem like much. The decision to enter may not seem to be a matter of great moment, but the presence of the guardian tells us that something important is happening. It indicates that going forward through the gate is no small thing, something to be approached with awareness and prayerfulness. We're embarking on a new phase of our lives, and there's no going back once this has been passed. Now, the song is Party and Bullshit, which may not seem to be relevant, but if you look at the lyrics to this one, Biggie talks about kind of being a teenager, the difference between that and now, and kind of his aggressiveness in various places, encountering various kinds of people. And it's very, it's very rap, but also there is like a certain energy of like, this is where I began, this is my life so far, and this is where I've ended up as a person. And I think that's actually very relevant to your reading, even though the song was fairly incidental, because this is just my playlist in progress for the next sort of month or so. So in the energies, the archetypes are moving through this process that we're describing, this kind of protection, shadow work, and moving on through less than ideal circumstance into a transformative new self. The things running through that are Saboteur in the Light, which is highlights your fear of self-empowerment and the changes it would bring to your life, which is interesting. And the Gossip in the Shadow, which is thrives on the power of passing on private or secret information, betraying confidences. My feeling on this is that you may have encountered somebody in a very direct, circumstantial way, and hello if you were in my reading about descendants the other day, right, in an astrological sense, but you'll have encountered somebody who did highlight your fear of empowerment by maybe betraying your confidence, by maybe passing on info about you which was either completely private or inaccurate. It's not incidental that I was mentioning the person who used to call me the gatekeeper in a sort of negative way, because in a sense they were that figure for me, right? Betraying confidences, twisting things that I'd said, passing them on to people without my permission, and then embellishing in order to assert their own status within a particular group by kind of attempting to diminish mine and attempting to spread falsehoods in a very sort of underhanded way. And I feel like you may have encountered a one-on-one relationship like that, which kind of, at the same time as it highlighted a need for protection, because we have this obsidian and we have a equally aggressive mindless self-indulgence song, it would also have highlight your fear of, okay, but what happens if I'm a success beyond that person? Like, what I'm hearing, drop your sword again, and that'll be relevant to some of you who've been watching my recent readings and who vibed with them. But drop your sword in the sense of like, okay, but what happens when you do drop the sword? What happens when this person isn't allowed to pass through the same gateway of transfiguration that you're about to pass through? And actually you just go into the mode of living your life and you don't have the niggles anymore. Many of my readings speak about difficult one-on-one dynamics with people that kind of teach us various things and appear in this ascendant-descendant way where we're dealing with our own shadow. This actually isn't one of those readings. This is talking about the kind of Disney happy ending after that point, where you go, people in my life like that are kind of dealt with, or at least for now, right? I may have gone through this transitional space with a person or people like that, but what we're looking at in a broader sense is how to move forward beyond those kind of dynamics, beyond that kind of a relationship, and into just existing in your own vibration and around people who echo your vibration instead of bringing you down. So in the DIY love deck, which is also just a colloquial communication deck that's sort of more general than love, so take this as it resonates, we've got please just tell me how you fucking feel. Seriously, I need my space right now, and dead ass. And I think the combination of this speaks to connections I've had in a romantic sense or in a sort of situationship sense, you know, insert situationship survivor meme, that speak to hot and cold behaviour. Somebody may be projecting that you're not expressive because they're not expressive. Someone who desperately needs the space but desperately needs you in the material and kind of vacillates between the two. And somebody who sort of, again, sort of attacks your mode of expression or your capacity to express, but is at a deficit in their own expression. This needn't be romantic. For some of you, it will be a mirror. It will be a situationship, because I use that example. For many others, it's just a kind of difficult person, and they are the person informing this gateway, this level up through the new threshold, through the new gateway of your life. I'm also hearing that the song is Call Your Guy by Oozing Wound, which is a favourite, and it makes me think of the singer, which we'll hear in a minute, makes me think of Elmo if he was in a metal band, where it's kind of like he's screaming in Elmo voice, and it's like they're trying to get Elmo to sing, but Elmo's like, Elmo can't sing. Elmo finds singing difficult. Elmo yell, right? This song is my ultimate Elmo yell, and I love it for that. And you'll hear Elmo yelling, but it's very like, there we go, there's the yelling. It's very kind of, this person may find singing sweetly difficult, and we've got music as our extra spicy divination section today, but they may find musicality, being melodic, harmonizing with others vibrationally, to be quite a tricky thing. And therefore it's like you're telling them to sing, but Elmo yell. Elmo find it really hard, Elmo yell. There's that kind of toddler energy with this. And you may have an affection for this person. They may be quite sweet. They may be someone you see as an Elmo. But at the same time, there's this thing coming through of like, no, Elmo can't do it like this, Elmo yell. And then you get the vocals from Call Your Guy, right? And again, playlist link down below. It's a fantastic song. If you're not into that genre, it's worth skipping into the vocals just to get that vibe and to laugh about it. Because I think part of the energy that's coming through from you is that you can laugh about the situation, and it may have been that at one point it was very dire for you and it was something you couldn't laugh about, but now you have trust in the universe. You also have trust that the situation has passed, and indeed that they shall not pass, right? Yellow, green, neon. Yes, it's a neon, so it's a super important emergency boop boop situation, possibly coming from communication from the archangelic if you work with that. It is very much like, here is your telegram from spirit in a kind of read urgently type way. But with it being yellow-green, it's kind of an intellectualization of an internal balance. So we are coming to a place in the psyche where the intricacies of the personal ecosystem are finally and fully understood. Those intricacies in green can be as blue-green as you want, which means that they can be as related to the instinctive as you like. And from that, what I'm saying is, you may have rebalanced yourself in a way that relates more to vibration and happiness and daily embodiment of a state that you want to be in, more than it relates to the logical, the technical, the material, the kind of action in the world stuff in a more direct way. But that stuff is coming in through logic applied to this thing. So it's almost like you embodied the state of, I'm getting very Neville right now, so you might be a law of assumption person, but you're embodying the state of the kind of wish or desire received. And then the yellow is coming in as the kind of like, and this is the psychological change that applies to that. You may have been someone who I recommended to do like Dylan James sleep videos ages ago, and you've kind of come back from that process and you're seeing this and you're like, yeah, I've embodied the change. And the psychological stuff is different because of the way that I've assimilated the subliminal information and integrated it into my overall vibration when I wake up in the morning. Again, I'm recording on a sunny day. Again, I'm recording on a day where I woke up very kind of happy and fired up and understanding what my dreams meant. And I think that that's not just my energy, it's actually yours, right? Because I'm filming this early morning before any noise begins outside. And it's kind of getting it in early is a vibe, because I feel that there's a new organised, prepared energy to you, which you may not have embodied before. Call Your Guy, as the song title, may even refer to like you. I know that that's not what the song's about, right? We all know what Call Your Guy is, but this is also like, call this person, they'll know what to do. There's this competence with you now, and it's not from a specific set of actions or criteria or a to-do list ticked off or things met that you kind of organised in therapy. All those things could be a possible extra for you, but my feeling is that the change is vibrational, it's internal, it's subtle, and then it's making big moves in a broader way, which is leading to psychological changes, which may have brought you out of gossip energy if you were in that with this other person before, right? If you bonded with someone in part to talk about other people, possibly because you didn't have so much of your own stuff going on that you were proud of, you're shifting out of that and into an idea of like, no, this is self-empowerment. This is, you know, if I'm the main character of my existence once again, and I stop talking about other people or being interested in that, and I'm just focusing on like, why was I afraid of coming into my power? Then coming into my power day to day looks like this, right? Which again leads into another card, creating a vision board. So we've got you making a very sort of, it doesn't have to be visual, but you're using the senses to articulate what it is you want from your future so that you can work backwards in the energy that you're in now. And notice I say the energy you're in, not the action you're in. This is why you're passing through the gate. It's not, like I say, that you went and adhered to a checklist. It's much more vibrational. It's much more energetic. It's that you adhered to the person you will be. You woke up in whatever environment, in whatever circumstances, no matter how horrific, or no matter how sort of different to where you eventually want to end up. And you still embodied the energy of the wish received or the desire fulfilled or whatever it is that you want to call it. Therefore, the kind of, what's the name of the big doors in a castle? Comment down below. But that, the whatever it is being lifted, and you're moving through the gateway. But trellis, is it? No, it's not trellis. Portcullis? I don't know. Anyway, that big door in a castle gate, right, with the chains, it's been lifted for you to pass through, but in the convoy of potential saboteurs, potential gossips, potential things you need to protect against that are travelling behind you, that thing is going to be lowered again, right? And it may even be lowered upon their heads. We've gone into a much more energetic, dynamic, poppy, summery song from quite a heavy, dirgy song, which I appreciate, but not everyone does. So there is this like lighter sensation. We've got all of this expressed quite, what's the word? quite eloquently here, right, concisely. The Queen of Cups, which is coming into a new energetic mode, it very much talks about this emotional embodiment feeling and having sensitivity but not being overwhelmed by emotion when it's in its positive aspect. Then we've got the Hermit. So this is like socially maybe taking time out to come to this point, or kind of retreating from a specific group that you felt were harmful but couldn't necessarily put your fingers on why always, right? Because this is quite a covert energy. Then we've got the Devil in reverse, so stepping away from temptation, stepping away from unhealthy patterns of behaviour, potentially dangerous people, etc. And it's in black, so again, shadow work, obsidian, protection, it's all echoing again. And then we've got stepping into a more childlike, a more innocent, a more sunny mode, this kind of music changing to pop vibe. But also the vibe of Biggie earlier, looking back on him as a 13-year-old and comparing it to now, of like, this is where I was as a kid, this is where I would like to be in terms of bringing some of that energy forward, some of the innocence, but this is where I am as an adult, and it's how these things integrate. You know, you've got the adult and the child. The child is gifting the adult the flower of innocence, which is a more pretentious way of saying the lessons from your younger self are informing the way that your adult self now acts and moves through the world, in a sense that it's not necessarily necessary to explain to other people. It might be quite, you might have done inner child work, or it might be quite childlike or instinctive, the way that you bring this younger self forward. For some of you, I'm hearing that your patterns of rest and pacing are to do with childlike activities, childlike hobbies, things that you used to indulge in as a kid. You might have a particular comfort activity or movie that is to do with that childlike energy. But whatever it is, it's gifting to the adult self a little bit of TLC so that you can move forward in a more cohesive way. So let's get more on this. Like, we've essentially got this situation where you're coming out of the dark very speedily, but Chariot reversed is interesting because it's almost like there's a stopping point, a pause, a survey of what you have control over and what you don't as we're moving through this. And as I say that, the music switches again to shoegaze and to a slightly more low tempo song. So it's like this reading is maybe your period, your pause for reflection over like, yeah, it's been a big deal. This whole process, no matter how long it's gone on for, how many people it's involved, this convoy behind you perhaps stretches across the desert, Fury Road style. And this is your point, once you've passed through that portcullis or whatever the word is, to maybe even like step up the castle gates and look at what it is that's been trailing behind you for so long, in order to make the acknowledgement of letting it go so that you can retain speed. There's also a Cancerian energy in the inverse here that's leaping out to me. I don't always like the association of Cancer with this card. It's not my first port of call as someone with 6 placements in Cancer who knows Cancer very well. So what's the Cancer in the inverse, Spirit? What's that trying to say? We're going to be given something from the song here, but I'm just talking over it for copyright reasons. Let's see if lyrically there's something. I mean, generally shoegaze is quite a sort of a substitute for... Okay, I can't tell what he's saying. It's a substitute for the emotional in some ways. It's kind of, there's been, I think, like, maybe even studies done on this, or certainly it's like a meme where shoegaze is quite often a genre that people listen to who dissociate a lot and who have trouble with feelings, with telling people how they feel, with expressing emotion to themselves. But they can live vicariously through the emotions of the songs in some way, or it expresses that dissociative energy. Don't quote me on that. I'm sure I've read that someone like found this in terms of looking at music genres, or at least in the shoegaze groups that I'm in, kind of sharing bands and stuff. It seems to be like an in-joke of like, oh yeah, it's the dissociation genre. And there's something about that here of maybe like, if you have been in a more dissociative space, surveying this like recent past stuff to say, okay, I acknowledge you. I actually feel the full feelings of what that sabotage or that attack or that sabotage to self was like. And I highlight my own self-empowerment by looking at how emotional I could have been, right? I've survived this kind of convoy of things after me, but now that I'm safely through this gate of transfiguration, I want to say transmogrification, I don't know why, but now I'm kind of beyond the threshold where I can safely look at what's behind me. There is a need to feel those feelings, perhaps even with some music of your choice, right? There's a need to go, blimey, that was a lot, in a conscious way. So then the next two cards we've got coming out are King of Swords, speaking to a new analytical mode, which you can do safely having processed this emotional stuff. And the Knight of Cups, which, is that something coming in or is that something to do with them? This one. Knight of Swords reversed, so not hasty. Okay, but that doesn't answer my question. Okay, right, yeah. Can you elaborate on that? Thank you. Right, it's interesting that we talk about self-sabotage and success in this, because whilst you've let go of many of the people and influences that were actively sabotaging you or gossiping about you or causing protection problems in your recent past, my feeling with this Knight of Cups is that it's actually something coming into the reading, because it's kind of coming from the outside, from the gates, into your field, your threshold. Apple TV remote by PT might be relevant lyrically. Again, playlist link down below, you can find it there. Yeah, there's something coming in. PT may be a relevant name actually, to your environment, which is something you wanted, right? Often if you're looking for a love reading, this is new love coming in, or grand gesture, or some kind of emotional expression from the outside, which is quite fulfilling for the recipient of same. It can also be like white knight on a horse energy, something or someone coming in to save you from circumstance which is less than desirable. Now that can be, you know, financially, career-wise, spiritually. It can be a mentor coming in. It can be, like I say, a love reading. You do you, boo. But whatever it is that you've been kind of the most worried about, there is aid riding in. But my feeling on that actually is that although the immediate saboteur energies that were perhaps chasing you are expelled, expunged, banished from this new kind of kingdom that you're in, there may still be a feeling of hastiness, of defensiveness, and of lack of planning coming from your end. Not because you can't plan, but because you're almost afraid of like an attack. You're kind of on the defense, rightfully, I want to say, because you feel that no matter how much the universe protects you from these kinds of influences and helps you to pass through energetically to the next stage, what I want to say is there will always be haters. There will always be people who laugh it up. It was the lyric, right? Just laugh it up. You're always going to have naysayers, is what I want to say. And they may be the people who are very hasty, fast talking. They may try and come across in a way that's very intellectual, but actually they're not very, because this is in reverse. They may be someone who sabotages your plans actively when you make plans to do well in a broader way and a more global way. So I'm reading like online conduct in this. You know, you may be in a position where you want to just enjoy your life, but you're a little afraid of posting that life too much online or sharing too much of what your future plans are, just in case there is this intense hater energy still about. And the cards are indicating that yes, there is, but they're kind of busy fighting amongst themselves. The repercussions of having people around you who don't want you to do well before the threshold may have been, I want to say, deadly to your dreams, your goals, your aspirations, because you were in vibrational alignment with a saboteur can sabotage me, right? But since you've come into saboteur in the light, since you've got rid of the gossip, since you've passed through the gate and spirit has kind of initiated you into this new, happier way of being, the danger is less immediately that they will materially sabotage you, and more that they can sabotage your thought process due to the fear that they are always watching, in inverted commas. And then, like, Oh, sorry, the Petey song was actually the next one on. So that's interesting. Let me come back to that. Yeah, it's the fear that they will do this and not the actual reality that they'll do this, because the most you'll get from them is a few sarky comments and then them bitching amongst themselves with other people who want to gossip because they don't have their own lives, right? Because in the end, that's what gossip is. It's preoccupation with the other because of deficit within the self, whether that's talking about someone's sexual life because you're not really having one of your own, whether it's speaking about someone's professional development because you feel that you're lacking in that department, you know, you go forward with whatever it is. I'd love to hear in the comments kind of what they were focusing on with you and how you feel that might relate to actually their lessons versus what it taught you about yourself, right? Because we're trying to come through into this space of positivity and transcendence of whatever it is that was talked about. My feeling is that in the cards, whatever it is that was gossiped about within you is the major arena within which you have transformed, within which you have changed your life. Nobody can be a hater in a way that affects you on something you're not actually feeling shame about in some fashion. And that's not to come for you, but it's just to say that maybe if someone threw shade at your previous career moves, the positive of that interaction was that you then put a focus on your career and absolutely bossed it, right? Or maybe if they were bitching about your romantic life, you put a little extra energy into just correcting some of the things that they had a misapprehension about, and actually now your romantic life is above and beyond anything that you or this other person have experienced. So there's that, like, transcending what it was and understanding that people will gossip and fight amongst themselves, but that if you get wind of that, it's Spirit's way of giving you like a, hey, heads up to this bit of your life which needs attention, in a sort of neon way, but not in the way that they're saying necessarily. So haters don't have to be true in their hate about you, and we should all shake it off, right? Because it's more their issue than yours. But what they might be true in a sense with is, this is the area for your attention today. So if they're bitching about your family life, maybe it's a good time to spend some time with family. And by doing that, not only do you throw it back in a sort of, in the way that they describe you, right, to others, it becomes an illogic in the eyes of others, which is also what this card is about. But additionally, you get extra time with that thing. You get to just develop the areas of your life that you may feel slightly in conflict with. The PT song coming later may mean that this Knight of Cups comes a bit later, or that there is someone called PT who came later in your life who is significant in some way. And the fact that I mistook another song for that and a whole other song slipped in before the PT one that I thought was coming, is that there may be things that are kind of forgotten in this, that are why you have this requirement to stop with this Chariot verse, look back over what happened, reassess slightly, feel the emotions deeply from a safer place, and then go forward. The interesting thing with this Five of Wands and these people kind of still hating on each other, arguing amongst themselves, bitching away in the background, yada yada yada, is that the song in the playlist is I'll Shit on Your Floor. And if you don't know it, it's I believe it's AI generated, but it's from something called like Band Vinyl or something, where they do old-timey songs in genres like Motown or soul or whatever that have very modern lyrics. So in this one, I hope I don't get banned for saying some of the lyrics, but it's about following someone home, and then it's I'll bang on your door, S on your floor, eat your D, as in your toy, use all your blow, which I can only imagine is a reference to blowing in the wind, etc., etc., right? It's like someone absolutely wilding at someone else's house in a revenge spree. And I feel like this is the energy of your haters or your hater kind of watching you and being like, how dare they? I'm going to bang on their door, S on their floor, eat their D, use all their B, etc., etc. Because that's kind of who they are in character, is like spiraling out of control. But the way that you're viewing this is the way that I view that song, which is like with a bit of a wry wink and a smile, and maybe even, in some cases, a funny games glance at the camera to say to spirit, are you going to fast forward through this section or what, right? And again, we've just changed vibe again because there's like aggressive surf now and it's very happy. So I feel like you're able to view these people for what they are nowadays. And it's just further indication that you've passed through this threshold. So Spirit is saying if something lovely comes your way, don't let it be sabotaged by the fact that you have lingering hater energy where you kind of can't block them always, or you can't prevent them from seeing your happiness always. Because realistically, you've still passed beyond the threshold of safety. You're still in a better place, providing that you maintain the energy that you have been maintaining. So yes, review this, feel ways about stuff, right? Absolutely. Go back and look at like how it was that you weren't allowed to feel in the moment, what the things were that you were dissociating from in the moment that you can now get beyond. But once you've gone through that process, recognise that it's done, that you're past that stage, that you can wake up in the morning and feel good, right? That surf's up, that you can just run down to the beach and ignore these people. And then with the sun in reverse, again, it's an echo of this Knight of Cups energy kind of coming in to save you. And that's a very, I realise that's a borderline codependent turn of phrase, but this rescuer energy, if you like, are the additional bits of your life that you can't fully rescue for yourself, or you can't tie up completely solo, it's completely hermited. This may be coming in at a delay because the sun reverse is not a negation of sun energy. It's saying we're getting to the sun, we're getting to childlike jubilance, but it's going to take us a little while. It'll be a hot minute. And in your case, I don't think that's because you're being taught any lesson about patience or because there's any reason to delay this, other than you being allowed to spend time in your vibration of happiness before your desires get here. And for those of you who are law of assumption, who do use Neville, etc., you will understand what I mean by that, right? There's value in more time being spent dwelling in the culmination of your desire energy without having the desires there yet. And actually, something that's coming through from Spirit is, how do I explain this? If you're in the before time, before the actual time, is what I want to say. But, so, right, say for example, that your desire is to be married to a specific person, right? And it's not going to be that way for everyone, but it's a common example on the internet, so I'm going to use it. So the indication from the cards here might be that that specific person is coming in, and indeed that marriage is on the cards for you. But also we've established that in passing through this gateway, this threshold of transformation, you are now in a space where you are living as if you are already in marriage, right? So your day-to-day life looks like you are in the state of the wish fulfilled. You wake up and you don't feel lonely. You feel glad to be there. You do things around the house that are the things you would do around the house if you were living with the person you were married to. You speak to your friends as if you have a partner who just happens not to be there at that time with friends. You are acting at work as if you are a married person. You are grooming yourself, decorating yourself, living your life as if you are happily married, but you are also enjoying your singleness. Now the attention to this energy, and we've got Ain't No Body coming on as the song, particularly the live version is absolutely pristine, and you should listen to it if you perhaps thought this was a bit of a naff song, because I think the synthiness coming in for this version is really good. But anyway, but it's that nobody can love me better, right? And that's also nobody can love you better than you in the absence of this partner, but in the kind of predictive absence, in the expectation of their arrival. So what this sun delayed energy is saying, on top of that kind of living in the embodiment of your desire, is that the reason this person hasn't come in just yet is that in that state of, I am married, but it's just that my partner isn't actually married to me yet, right? In that space of apparent illogic to other people, which works out really well for your energy and your happiness and your vibration, there is another task that needs to be done before this thing can come in. It's not an I do this and this happens. It's not like eat your vegetables and you get your dessert. That's not how the universe works. And it's particularly not in this reading, because this is a vibe that's just kind of transferring through everything. It's moving through the whole shebang, right? It's uniting these songs in the playlist that don't go together. It's uniting aspects of your life that aren't intuitively in marriage, right? But in this, like, in the example of I'm in married energy, whether or not I'm married, there is something else that you will be able to achieve by maintaining that particular vibration that would be far more difficult to achieve if you were putting the same energy, the same action, the same connections, the same work into it, but you didn't wake up thinking, I'm a married person and I love my life. Do you get me? You feel me? So it's like, it's not you must do this thing and then the night will come, or then the sun energy will come. You know, we're not talking once you achieve this, you'll get the promotion, you'll get the chosen family unit, you'll be in relationship, you'll be able to escape your current relationship, you'll get the house, you'll get the dog, you know, whatever it is that you currently desire. You'll get the holiday, for example. We're not saying do one and you'll receive the other. We're saying you have already received the other. Maintain the receiving state in order to apply yourself best to that other project that you've been working on. And while you're working on it, or after you've worked on it, this other stuff can arrive, right? Because it's coming anyway. It's just like you've placed the order on Amazon, but you've turned off Prime to save some cash. So it's gonna be like maybe a few days to a month. And you're like, well, I've still ordered it, I've paid for it, I've gone through the alchemical process that allowed me to receive it. I'm in receiving mode, but what I'm not gonna do is pull a Scott Pilgrim in that time that I'm waiting for my package and sit by the door being like, Amazon isn't here yet, Amazon isn't here yet, Amazon isn't here yet, right? What I'm instead going to do is go, I've placed my order, it's set to arrive at such and such a time, roughly. So now I'm going to go to work, I'm going to see my friends, I'm going to do brunch, I'm going to watch this movie that I've never seen, I'm going to make this food that I've been wanting to make for a while from Grandma's recipe. You know, you do you, boo. Let me know in the comments what your interim happy activities are. But there's a sense of like, it's coming anyway, and the best possible time to do the other shit you've been looking at is now. Because I think before, whatever it is that you desire, even if it's something small, like I want tickets to this event, or I want my hair to go this colour and it's currently 2 colours along in the colour wheel from what I'm requiring, right? So I have to move through those other colours. Hair dye gang, you know what I'm saying, right? But even if you're a little space away and it's a very small desire, what the universe, what spirit is saying to you right now is that the gap between you placing your order and it arriving at your door is the best space to enact other things. So while your hair is going into green, preparing to be blue, and while the green dye is fading so that you can apply the blue dye, is the best time to film a bunch of videos that would look great if you had green hair. Or, you know, to use a more relatable example, while you're waiting for a word back from the job application that you sent off, it's a really good time to further develop your portfolio for the interview, right? Or practice your interview questions, or in an unrelated thing, you might be hearing back from them later that day, and it's a good time to cook a meal for your family, or it's a good time to get some cleaning done. You know, whatever it is for you. Again, see the intro. This is a broad reading for a general audience. Hopefully, please like, subscribe, ding the dong, thank you kindly. It will one day be a large audience. So we have to keep it loose. We have to keep it a little bit wavy. But within that, there is essentially something which is coming into being that you've ordered a long time ago, and you've now passed a kind of energetic threshold to receive, not learnt lessons from stuff, not broken connections and that's why, but energetically you shifted, so you're now in the space to get it. But while you're in that space, hon, the thing you need to get out of the way before you enjoy it has to be done. And that's partly so that you can enjoy it more fully, right? If this is a person and you have a load of like work to do, say you're a freelancer, right? And you want a relationship to come in, then there is a shit ton of freelance work that would be in the way if in fact you met that person and you wanted to spend a couple of days on a spicy holiday, but it turns out you still had a load of work projects to do. So do them now, and then you can go off and shag, right? It's that kind of a vibe of like, if you really want to enjoy this when it comes in, get the stuff done now while you're in a good vibe that you would want to be complete before it turns up for you. Okay, judgment reversed. You might be saying, well, I don't feel called to doing that stuff, for which the solution is, okay, but logically now's still the time to do it. There is a little bit, I will admit, although you're in high vibe, there's a bit of pushing yourself in this reading through a kind of, oh, but I don't really want to do that right now. You may have been so high vibe that you've been doing the Abraham Hicks type stuff of, I'm only going to do what feels the best for me in the moment. Whether that's still adhering to certain rules and regulations, like yes, I have to take care of my family, or yes, I have to do my job or whatever, but I'm only going to do it in the best possible way, or I'm going to focus on the projects first that I feel the most fired up about, or whatever. So you've been going from bliss to bliss to bliss, which, congratulations, that's an excellent way to move through the world. It's an excellent way to encourage synchronicity and feedback and getting your desires. It is the way we all kind of should move in a magician and magical context, right? Is following what fires us up the most, being in alignment with true will. However, if at the bottom of that list of things you desire in order, there are a couple of jobs that you'll probably never desire to do, we still have to chop wood, carry water. We still have to do those things, right? So it may be that you're coming to the end of a list of required things that you have to take care of before excitingness comes in, and your message from spirit is like, okay, but take care of those too, and do it while you're feeling good, while you're feeling high vibe, while you're waking up thinking surf's up, today's going to be fantastic, look at how beautiful things are now. Or at the very least, if you don't feel quite that fired up yet and we're looking near future, it's a good thing to do them now that your convoy of mother truckers, your people following you with this saboteur, gossip, hater attitude, are kind of safely out of your boundary spirit-wise, right? I don't know whether you caught that there was like a quote between songs just there, but it's from Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, which I feel mixed about, but it's Kevin Smith, so I'll watch it, right? And it's the section where Will Ferrell asks Jay to stop stealing monkeys, and Jay immediately tells him to go, you know, and Will Ferrell's like, even within a second response is fair enough, right? It's like, go F yourself, fair enough. It's like immediate relenting. And I feel like that's the space of your haters now. It's energetically, it's like, you need to stop doing this thing because we don't like it. And then you say, you know what, go F yourself. And it's so unexpected, the energy that you're in, the success you're having, etc., that they're kind of meekly, immediately in Will Ferrell mode going, fair enough, right? And that is, I mean, that's the source of the comedy in that particular quote, but it's also quite funny in your world. So you may have that thing of like, they're all aggy and they're all bolshy, perhaps online because of this card, but the second you clap back, it's like, oh, fair enough, okay, we're backing off, sorry, because they're used to being able to be aggy with each other and be very loud and be very like, and if I saw this person, I do this thing. And actually when it comes to seeing you in person or really kind of meeting that energy or meeting your energy IRL, meeting your success versus where they currently stand, I think they'd be a lot more in the mode of looking at the floor and backing off and saying, fair enough, right? Okay, so final card, and then we're going to get into our extra divination form for the day. What do you want to say? Okay, Eight of Swords. So don't, not don't, there are no shoulds, there are no don'ts, but resist the temptation to trap yourself in ruminations on how things were instead of how they are. The path through these swords is actually very straightforward, and this woman can untie herself, she can take her own blindfold off. The message of this card is very much like, yes, there are all these intellectual reasons why it shouldn't work out for you, but actually your path is free. And it's a pathway that walks through water, so it's like, again, traversing the emotional with a great deal of success. You can go beyond this. What do I want to say about this tune? It's to do with it being Sons of Arrakis. So, okay, so firstly, excellent band if you're into kind of new psychedelia or groove metal or anything like that. Just stoner rock in general, I guess. And if you're into Dune as well. But with it being in the Duneverse, what I want to say is like, the water in this card is something about conserving emotion. Because of like wasting water in the desert, right? This sort of Fremen philosophies may be relevant here, or you may be a Fremen fan or be a sci-fi fan in general. If that doesn't hit, this is more broadly about like a feeling in the past that perhaps the reason you did dissociate was to conserve your feelings so that they would fire you up within certain activities. So in a practical way, this might translate to like, if you felt angry about some stuff, you may have saved that anger for your magical work so that you could transform the energy into something you could send out for healing or for just fuel for result. And then, you know, if you felt, I don't know, a great deal of like physical energy left over from how fired up this situation left you, and you're into working out, you might have used it at the boxing gym or boxing gym. What do I sound like? Is this 1980? You know what I mean? You may have used it in the gym to do a bit of boxing or a bit of like just physical stuff. You may have burnt it off in that way where you were like saving it. And the indication from spirit is that now you're in a safe place to just feel it and not have to put it anywhere. And to trust that you will have enough physical energy to do your boxing. You'll have enough energetic impetus to make your desires real through your intention, magically speaking. You know, if you were saving your sadness for a time where it was appropriate or where you needed to express sadness through art, you will now have enough creative and energetic energy that you don't need to like save your emotion, i.e. squash it down in the moment in order to do that, right? The song that's on now is A Liar, If Your Girl Only Knew. So for some of you, if this was a situationship thing, you may come to some realization in the near future about third-party stuff, whether it's that you're finding out more details about that and how they're arguing amongst themselves, or you're finding out that actually the girl didn't know, or somebody else wasn't privy to the same amount of info that you were, right? And that may make you reassess emotionally how you feel about the situation, and the encouragement with all that is just to feel it. Again, with any third-party stuff on this channel, by the way, I never announce it in my readings. So if you don't know that there was a third party, I'm not telling you. This is just me referring to people who knew that that was their situation, that you might get kind of further intel on that. And that if you do, feel it, right? Don't conserve your water. You're not in the desert. You're not a Fremen right now. You can absolutely just let that water flow through you, around you. I'm hearing let the force flow through you. It's like, it's not going to turn you Sith. It's just something to be experienced as part of the human experience. And what's more is, it is safe to experience it now. That's the thing that's coming through the most in your reading, to be honest. Whatever your individual circumstances were, whatever it is that you're working on now, whatever it is that you're manifesting in, and however you feel this gateway, this threshold plays out in your life, the message from spirit is that you're in a safe place now. You've passed the threshold where we are protecting you. So your task is to keep believing and to keep feeling how you feel, and doing what it is that you wanted to do in the first place without worry about other people or worry about the energy levels that you're going to have if you actually fully experience those things. Yeah, trust is what's coming through. I'm going to just kind of, I'm going to stop Alaya in her tracks, sadly, and I'm going to clear this deck so that we can go into my extra divination portion. If you're leaving me here, please do like, subscribe, ding the dong, thank you kindly. Spread me far and wide to circulate this small channel with a big mission, and so that I can help other people. And if you want to book with me or give me a little bit of money for a coffee, the link is down below, because this is my main income source. And I kind of want to transfer doing more readings like this than in-person readings, but I'm making that shift, so help me out if this is where we finish. And if not, and you want another form of divination, today I'm going to use an electronic keyboard, and we're going to use synth tones as a meditation device so that I can tell you what's coming, what's next, or further info about this. So I'm just going to set up for that. The keyboard more than likely will be off camera because of the size of this table and or my room. But basically when the music stops, we're ready to begin phase 2. See you in a sec. Right, my little Chucky egg, we're back. The keyboard is indeed off table, but what I can tell you about it is that it's a Yamaha dating back to the era of keyboards, for those of a certain age, where we would use them at school, and they would have that setting where you could go, DJ, DJ, come on, DJ. So for many of you, we're bringing that back, right? It is maybe the oldest thing I own, or getting there. So we're going to sound naff. The point is not that we're sounding musically good right now. In fact, we may receive tones that are very discordant in this particular reading. But my aim in designing this reading is that I'm sort of making a form of divination where we can just experience the sound as a starting point. So we're using this tone, which is like slow synthy strings, and it's very naff, but that I think adds to it because it's a bit 80s cinematic somehow to do that. For those of you who are Twin Peaks fans or just David Lynch fans, this is the honorary Angelo form of divination. You're tearing me apart, Angelo, right? We're gonna kind of do chords in that sense, using numbers from the cards, and then whatever we receive, I will do my "you're tearing me apart" Angelo speech over it, and whatever I'm talking about will be the messages we get, okay? So as far as I'm aware, this has never been done before on the internet, so if you see it anywhere else, link me and be like, oh, I remember when Double L did this, right? Because I'm calling it the O Angelo method. I may even hashtag that, I haven't decided yet. So let's begin. We're moving from like a low C, and we're kind of counting based on the numbers in the cards. So it matters less what the card is, although that will play in, and more kind of like what we're doing down here. I'm also noticing that's on its side. Anyway, okay, so we begin with a 6 of Pentacles. That's interesting. So the energy of reciprocity, but what does that translate to? 5, 6. So we have a low F. It's quite ominous, isn't it? Let's get a bit more to this environment. Oh, and an ominous card. The 9 of Wands. Okay, so let me just count. 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 9. So we have a C sharp coming in. Feel what you feel, guys. Put in the comments how it is that these are making you feel as well. But what I'm getting from this, really, is somebody who is maybe walking. It's very Angelo. I'm going to link that clip actually for those who don't know what I'm saying when I'm saying that. But this is somebody walking through a dark space at night, perhaps an alleyway or some kind of city space for some of you, and they've been feeling set upon, but it's not in an aggressive way, it's in a way of sadness. It's in carrying too much emotion. It's kind of huddling into your overcoat and walking through the streets that no one else inhabits anymore, thinking about life. Very different energy to the original reading. Okay, so we're not going to do that as a number, but what I want to say is King of Cups is someone who is coming to mastery over their own emotions, right? Which totally works for this, and the light has gone out. So they may feel that a light has gone out, or there's something in this visualization of them moving where a nearby light goes off, maybe a cat runs through the alley knocking things over, etc. And then we have a 10, so 2, 3, 10. There's a sense of hopefulness coming in, but it's almost discordant with where this person was. It's jarring, right? It's unless they let go of the environment that they were in, it doesn't feel quite the same. And if they have this hope in that environment, without the trepidation that they were feeling, even in the same environment, you can see that, okay, so this is the hope with the feeling that they were embodying, the vibration they were in, right? Ooh, a bit scary, being chased, no? Or at least stalked through the streets. Whereas this is the old circumstantial environment that we didn't enjoy, but with the vibration of hope, which seems incongruous to it, and yet that is a more harmonious combination. So there's a theme of burden here. I'm going to start a new chord in a moment because I think that was the info we needed. There is a feeling of being overburdened, of being injured by the past that comes through in these two cards. But what's coming through in the way that the music was working is that you might be under the impression that the antithesis to your hopefulness is environmental or circumstantial, whereas actually it was based on your perspective. It was based on your emotional take on what was happening. And if you remove the former emotional take, as we spoke about in your initial tarot, what you get is a much more harmonious combination of feeling and place, so that the alleyways this person is walking through don't seem so dark and ominous anymore. They seem to actually be in accordance with this new hope, in a sense of opportunity coming in. In my head, when I was hearing that, I was seeing the streets suddenly gaining a few neon lights, there being maybe sort of a perspective down the alley of cars going past in the distance, of life at the end of this kind of bridge of thoughts, of feelings. Whereas when this person was walking just in their emotion through a darker space, there wasn't any light, there wasn't any evidence of new people, new hope, new places to go. I know it's very Angelo, but I hope that that communicates kind of what we're getting at with this. And I think it's a re-emphasis on the thing here was maintaining vibration, not on changing physical circumstance. So even if you have problems that are very based in reality, my feeling is that your emotional attitude to those problems is more of a big deal than whatever they are. So let's begin again higher than we did, maybe sort of to the next C, so the next octave, and we'll start here. So we've got an 8 of Pentacles. We're working on something. Okay, that's interesting because that's a repeat energy. And then 1. So there's anxiety about working on this thing. It's quite frightening to think that it might fail. But we have speed coming in, we have messages coming in. And again, the message with the fear actually becomes slightly more harmonious. Let's try the working with the message without the fear. There we go. So we've got the difference between this and this. Now I don't know how you feel, but I feel that of the two, the second is preferable. So what we're saying is that if we're letting go of the fears around this, whenever communication comes in from a desired space, it will be more harmonious. And again, it's a very straightforward message, and it's easy for me to say, oh, don't be afraid about that. But even the indication that there will be something coming in is a good place to start from, right? So let's forget this for a moment and let's go to this message and we'll learn more about it. We've got an energy of stability, and then we've got a major that's doing a 10. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I want to add something to that because it really echoes this wheel being a temporal thing. It's kind of not still spinning. So let's get another component as to where the wheel will spin. Now, isn't that interesting? So altogether, that was quite an anxious sound again, wasn't it? It was quite, we're on tension, we're kind of in this area and we don't know what's going to happen, kind of a thing. That wasn't me actually singing. I'm so sorry for whatever that was. But then we move when we let go of the origins or the initial panic with this message happening in an environment that we have fears in, maybe a professional environment or a rumination over working on our security. We move from the message into the actual content, which is that things are changing around, things are shifting. We're planning anew from the content of this. And once we skip past the initial note that was representative of the message coming in, and we go into the content of it, we get to somewhere that I think is quite beautiful and quite simple because there's no black notes in this. It's just literally a D and an F. And actually a lot of the songs that I really find comforting in a romantic sense seem to have a lot of chords based around those two. I don't know why that would be, but that makes me think that if you did come for a love reading, there might be an element of that. The other thing that I get from this, if you're struggling to go like, I know that from somewhere and I don't know where, it's part of the beginning intro sequence that you used to get on old Disney VHSs, right? You get that kind of sustained bit and then you get dun 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 dun. And the logo comes up, right? I hope I don't get copyrighted just for fucking humming that shit in this day and age, but there is almost like a Disney happy ending with this. So let's talk about the nature of that. The time for rumination is over. The time for continued reflection is over. The world is in reverse. So that's interesting because you don't yet feel that the world is your oyster, but you know you've come to a point where you can stop going over and over and over old circumstance. You can take risks with this full reversed. And we're getting into a 2, okay? So 1, 2 would be, or, and actually this I didn't want to do, because the notes are next to each other, so it feels, again, discordant, but it's quite poignant, isn't it? It's like being filled to the brim with an energy. It makes me think of Not the score for this, but just the energy of the ultimate sequence in the film A Matter of Life and Death. So that might be relevant for some of you. But it's that feeling of, okay, I'm going to spoil the movie A Matter of Life and Death, and I really don't want to, because so many people might not have seen it, and it's fantastic and you should see it, right? So skip, I don't know, a few seconds, maybe 30, if you don't want it spoiling. But at the end of the movie, there is a guy who is undergoing surgery, who is in trial to get the rights to live out his life with a woman that he's fallen in love with in circumstances where he should have died, right? And the woman is waiting at his bedside for the surgery to complete and for his cosmic trial to be over. And there's all these kind of ancestors and various historical figures seeing over this in an angelic sense and participating with people who knew him and all of this kind of stuff to decide whether he gets to spend his time on Earth because of a heaven error, right? And what happens is that the partner who's left on Earth, who he fell in love with in this interim time of a few days, is asked whether she would go in his place to allow him to live, thereby separating them and rendering his attempt at the trial like null and void or a silly thing to do or kind of pointless, because he wanted to stay on Earth so that he could be with her. But she loves him so much that she says, you know what, I will go in his place. I will absolutely sacrifice myself so that he can live. And that is the proof of her love for him that the angels doing the trial kind of needed. And they send her back down the steps to Earth along with his soul so that they can both live, because she chose, she was so kind of brimming, and this is a brimming sound to me, she was so overflowing with love for him that in her willingness to sacrifice, it absolutely did happen. So what does that translate to energetically? There is an overabundance of a particular energy that I think comes from this communication incoming, this conversation. There is an overwhelm here, and this indecision here that I think speaks to the example of the trial rather than how you're feeling. Yes, the time for rumination is over and a new risky time is beginning, but there is also a sense of being so full of love for what is happening that you will sacrifice anything for the welfare of a new project, a new person, a new thing. And therefore, universe is allowing you full, complete, extended access to that thing, to that element, because of your willingness to sacrifice towards it. The Eight of Pentacles we began with these sounds, is something about working towards or on something with someone. For many, it can be like the culmination of a career or a relationship into some form that is like its final evolution, right? So there is a sense here of you being so overwhelmed with emotion towards something you're passionate about that it comes into its final stage, and that actually that stage is extended. The life of the thing is extended because of the purity brought in. So we're going to go even higher and pick a few more cards. Let's go to this side and just move these out of the way. So coming from here, we've got a Queen of Swords reversed. So there's an energy of maybe elitism, maybe somebody very picky. This could speak to the people we were talking about in your convoy. Or it could be something else. Let's have a look. And a Two of Cups reversed. So someone being too elitist to be in a true friendship with someone. So I think this may refer to the convoy. Where were we here? Yeah, we were here. So we're going 1, 2. So we're beginning here. And then we're at another 2. 1, 2. And that we're at a Hanged Man, which is a 12. So I'm going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And we're almost at the highest point we can get to. You hear how this is very quiet under this, yeah? But this is the ultimate energy we were going for. But the Hanged Man is in reverse, as we've seen it. My feeling is that you were at pause and you're coming out of that period of pause. But it's almost because you were in that suspended state that we spoke about in your main reading, that you were ignored by these people who were in collaboration and who were right next to each other, but who you notice are not friends. Yeah? So we've got this, and then under it we're hearing this. And the thing that sustains, that survives, is this sound here. So I'm going to get a final note for you to harmonise with this for a kind of outcome. And we're going to go back down the piano, because there's nowhere really we can go up from. We're at the second to last note. Justice, that's interesting. So let's take it to 11 and 8, because in the tarot it's both. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is the note that is absent from this interpretation, but is important to know about. 9, 10, 11. And this is the true note. Ooh. Okay, so these together, is kind of happening under it. And it's a bit John Carpenter, or it's a bit kind of... If this was in a horror movie soundtrack or a genre movie soundtrack, I would call it the chord for the anticipation of a supernatural thing or an incoming thing, right? And that might be what's overtly happening. So this justice reverse, there's been a miscarriage of justice and there is a cosmic response, right? And this could literally be a set of notes for you that invites protection, by the way. So if you make sound stuff, use that. But then the true form of this, the older placement of justice in the tarot or in some decks, maybe even preferential decks for you and I, is combining with an 8 rather than 11, which takes us to this. So we've gone from something supernatural is needed because there's been a miscarriage of justice. And that something may be a bit fishy. It's giving big Prince of Darkness vibes. To actually, the energy of this thing is like this. And that to me is transmission. Again, it's communication. But it's not just from a message in a literal sense like it was over here. I feel this is like spirit comms coming in. So for some of you, you're gaining new psychic skill, or you're upping your level of that. If you're already in divination, or you speak frequently with spirit in some form, or you pray a lot, there is about to be an expansion of that energy from a worrying place to a more comforting place as well. You're going to be receiving the transmission very directly. This is a very Garth Marenghi's Dark Place kind of a sound for someone putting their hand to their temple and being like, ah yes, there is a message coming in. You know, it's a little bit old school Star Trek. It's very like, comms. So I want to like say that I remember the first, what was the first card we had? Like overall, it was this 6, wasn't it? So our first note, which spoke to our circumstance, was here. So what does that sound like with higher intelligence communicating? Because as we said, we're not letting go of circumstantial materialism, we're letting go of the fears about it. And now we get a complete picture. The darkened alleyway we began with in this O Angelo sequence was actually the perfect place for this message to reside. This is a chord. And it's not discordant, it's not wrong, it's not particularly minor, it's just existing. And it might be at tension because life works that way. It might expect other notes after it. that take it in a more resolved direction. But in the end, it's not at odds with itself. Spirit coming in a more fulfilling way for you is not at odds with the environment that you used to consider too dark, too scary, but which actually, hopefully, in the progression of notes through this, you've come to understand as the correct circumstances for this time. And indeed, spirit communication and your own communication with self in this kind of Hanged Man reverse mode. This, I am waiting, I am waiting, I am safe in the waiting. This vibe is perfectly okay with where you are right now, no matter what those circumstances feel like. Sorry, I got that quite wrong there. This is the transmission, and this is you. So I'm finally going to play it again, and I want us to just dwell in it. I know that's some hippy dippy bullshit, but you're on a tarot channel, soz mate. You've just listened to me, Angelo Badalamenti, David Lynch, my way through an entire new form of reading. So bear with me and just sit in this and see what it brings up for you. Even if it sounds silly, even if it feels silly to do, we're going to inhabit it. We're going to breathe together, okay? And we're left with you singing your song. Let me know in the comments what it was that you got from this. Whether or not you enjoyed that particular form of divination or thought it was ridiculous or didn't like that it re-emphasised parts of the reading. Just, let me know what you're up to, how it hit, whether it hit, what you'd like me to try in the future in terms of spicy divination forms, etc., and so on and so on. And if you did enjoy it, please do like, subscribe, ding the dong for further updates. Thank you kindly. I hope to see you again soon. If you'd like a private reading with me where we can explore things with more specificity, I would love that. And if not, you take care.